Picture this: a bustling international airport on a Friday evening. Thousands of travelers rushing through Terminal 3 with roller bags clicking against polished floors, the constant drone of overhead announcements echoing through the vast space. And somewhere in the middle of this organized chaos, a woman named Patricia Henderson is about to pull off what she thinks is the perfect scam. But what Patricia doesn't know yet is that karma has a first-class ticket with her name on it. And this flight is about to become the most humiliating journey of her entire life. The automatic doors of the departure terminal slide open with a mechanical whoosh as Patricia wheels herself through in a standard airport-issue wheelchair, her designer handbag perched perfectly on her lap, her manicured nails gripping the armrests with just enough theatrical tension to sell the performance. She's 52 years old, impeccably dressed in a cream-colored blazer that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, and her blonde hair is styled in that specific way that screams both money and entitlement. Behind her, a young airport assistant named Miguel pushes the wheelchair with practiced efficiency, completely unaware that he's helping someone who has absolutely nothing wrong with her legs. Patricia had requested the wheelchair service the moment she'd checked in, claiming a severe mobility issue that made it impossible for her to walk long distances. She'd even practiced her pained expression in the bathroom mirror before approaching the check-in desk, perfecting that subtle wince that suggested chronic pain without being overdramatic. This wasn't Patricia's first time using this particular trick. Oh no, she'd been doing this for almost 3 years now. Ever since a friend had casually mentioned at a wine-tasting event that wheelchair passengers got priority boarding, dedicated security lanes, and premium treatment throughout the entire airport experience. Patricia had immediately seen the genius in it. Why should she have to stand in those endless security lines like some common traveler? Why should she wait at the gate with the masses when she could board first, secure her overhead bin space, and settle into her seat while everyone else shuffled on like cattle? The system was practically begging to be exploited, she'd told herself. She wasn't hurting anyone. She was just being smart, using the resources available to her. As Miguel wheels her through the terminal, Patricia maintains her performance with Oscar-worthy dedication. When they pass other travelers, she keeps her expression carefully neutral with just a hint of stoic suffering. When they approach the priority security lane, she even lets out a small, carefully calibrated sigh that suggests someone bravely enduring discomfort. The TSA agent waves them through with a sympathetic nod, and Patricia feels that familiar rush of satisfaction. She's beaten the system again. She's smarter than all these ordinary people trudging through their ordinary security checks. But what Patricia doesn't notice, what she's too absorbed in her own cleverness to see, is the airport security officer standing near the priority lane entrance. His name is Marcus Chen, and he's worked at this airport for 8 years. Marcus has seen every scam, every trick, every manipulation that travelers try to pull. And something about Patricia immediately catches his attention. It's not anything obvious, not at first. It's just the way she's sitting in that wheelchair, the way her legs are positioned, the way her muscles don't show the slight atrophy or positioning that people with genuine mobility issues often develop. Marcus has pushed his own mother through airports in a wheelchair after her hip surgery. He knows what real disability looks like, and something about this woman doesn't quite add up. Marcus makes a mental note of Patricia's face and continues his rounds, but he keeps one eye on her progress through the terminal. He watches as Miguel wheels her toward Gate 42, where a flight to Miami is scheduled to depart in 90 minutes. He watches as Patricia thanks Miguel with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes, tipping him exactly $15, the absolute minimum that won't make her look cheap. And he watches as Miguel walks away, and Patricia immediately pulls out her phone, scrolling through social media with the casual posture of someone who has absolutely nothing wrong with their spine or mobility. At Gate 42, the waiting area is already filling up with passengers. There's a young mother trying to keep her twin toddlers entertained with an iPad, an elderly couple holding hands as they share a magazine, a businessman typing furiously on his laptop. And scattered throughout are dozens of other travelers, each absorbed in their own pre-flight rituals. Patricia positions her wheelchair near the priority boarding sign, right where everyone can see her, right where the gate agents can't possibly miss her when boarding begins. She's perfected this positioning over the years. Too close and she looks desperate. Too far and she might get overlooked. This spot is perfect. 45 minutes until boarding. Patricia continues scrolling through her phone, occasionally shifting in her wheelchair with calculated movements. She knows the performance doesn't end just because she's sitting down. Airport staff are always watching, always evaluating. She has to maintain the illusion completely. When another passenger accidentally bumps into her wheelchair while reaching for their carry-on, Patricia lets out a sharp intake of breath and touches her lower back with just enough drama to make the passenger apologize profusely. She waves off their concern with martyr-like grace, assuring them she's fine. She's used to it. The passenger hurries away looking guilty, and Patricia allows herself a tiny smile. Even the small moments of manipulation give her a thrill. But across the terminal, Marcus Chen has pulled up the security footage from the check-in area on his tablet. He's watching Patricia's arrival, watching the moment she requested the wheelchair, and something still isn't sitting right with him. He's seen her type before. Expensive clothes, expensive jewelry, that particular brand of entitlement that comes from never being told no. He knows he can't just approach her based on a hunch, can't accuse someone of faking a disability without evidence. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen, a PR nightmare for the airport. But Marcus is patient. He's learned over the years that people who are faking something always slip up eventually. Always. They get too comfortable, too confident, too careless. And when they do, he'll be watching. The gate agent makes an announcement that boarding will begin in 20 minutes. Patricia straightens slightly in her wheelchair, preparing herself. This is one of her favorite parts, the moment when boarding begins, and she gets to wheel herself right past everyone else, right past the families and the business class passengers and the elite status holders. She gets on first. She gets the best treatment, all because she was smart enough to exploit a loophole that everyone else is too honest or too stupid to use. A woman in her 30s approaches the gate area, struggling with an oversized carry-on and a personal item. Her name is Rebecca Santos, and she's a physical therapist who's just spent the last week at a conference on mobility assistance and adaptive equipment. Rebecca glances around for a place to sit and notices Patricia in the wheelchair. Something immediately strikes her as odd. She's spent her entire career working with people who have mobility issues, and her trained eye picks up on subtle inconsistencies. The way Patricia is sitting suggests no core weakness. The way she's holding her phone shows no tremor or grip issues. The way her legs are positioned doesn't suggest any hip, knee, or ankle problems. Rebecca feels a twinge of suspicion but pushes it away. She's not here to judge. Maybe the woman has an invisible condition. Maybe she's having a good day. Rebecca finds a seat across from Patricia and tries to focus on her own phone, but she can't quite shake the feeling that something isn't right. 15 minutes until boarding. The gate area is packed now, with every seat filled and passengers standing in clusters near the windows. A teenage boy is FaceTiming with someone, his laugh echoing across the space. An older man is arguing with his wife about whether they remembered to lock the back door at home. The energy is typical pre-flight chaos, that particular mixture of excitement, anxiety, and impatience that fills every airport gate in the world. And Patricia sits in her wheelchair like a queen on her throne, surveying her subjects, confident in her superiority. The gate agent, a woman named Jennifer who's worked for the airline for 12 years, begins preparing for boarding. She's seen thousands of wheelchair passengers over her career, and she prides herself on treating every passenger with dignity and respect. When she looks over at Patricia, she sees what she assumes is someone dealing with a difficult medical condition, and her heart goes out to her. Jennifer makes a mental note to ensure Patricia gets on the plane smoothly and comfortably. She has no idea that she's about to become an unwitting participant in Patricia's scam. But here's where things start to get interesting. Here's where the universe begins to arrange the perfect storm that will expose Patricia Henderson for exactly what she is. Because 30 feet away, near the airport cafe, Marcus Chen has just been joined by his supervisor, a no-nonsense woman named Lieutenant Reeves, who's heard about Marcus's suspicions regarding the wheelchair passenger at Gate 42. Lieutenant Reeves has her own history with disability fraud, having caught a man last year who'd been faking a service dog to skip security lines. She trusts Marcus's instincts and agrees to keep monitoring the situation. They position themselves where they can observe the gate without being obvious, watching and waiting. The announcement comes. We will now begin boarding Flight 2847 to Miami. We'd like to invite passengers requiring additional assistance, as well as our first-class passengers and our Platinum Elite members, to begin boarding at this time. Jennifer, the gate agent, looks directly at Patricia and gestures welcomingly. This is Patricia's moment. This is what she's been waiting for. She straightens in her wheelchair and begins wheeling herself toward the gate entrance, moving with the careful slowness of someone who wants everyone to see her struggle, to witness her brave perseverance in the face of adversity. Other passengers step aside, giving her plenty of room, some watching with sympathy, others with the distracted indifference of frequent travelers who've seen it all before. Patricia reaches the gate agent and hands over her boarding pass with a weary smile. "Thank you so much," she says softly, her voice carrying just enough fragility to reinforce the performance. Jennifer scans her pass and asks if she needs any additional assistance boarding the aircraft. Patricia declines gracefully, assuring her that she can manage once she's on the jet bridge. This is another part of her strategy. She doesn't want airline staff hovering over her, doesn't want anyone paying too much attention to exactly how she moves. She wheels herself onto the jet bridge, and the moment she's out of sight of the gate area, her entire demeanor changes. The jet bridge is a long, enclosed corridor connecting the terminal to the aircraft, and it's relatively private. There are no passengers behind Patricia yet, no gate agents watching. And this is where Patricia makes her first critical mistake. Because she's done this routine so many times, she's gotten careless. Instead of maintaining her careful wheelchair movements all the way to the aircraft door, Patricia stands up. Just stands right up out of the wheelchair, stretches her back with the casual ease of someone who's been sitting too long but has absolutely nothing wrong with their mobility, and begins walking normally toward the plane entrance, pulling the empty wheelchair behind her like it's a piece of luggage. And guess who's standing at the terminal window, looking down at the jet bridge through the reinforced glass? Marcus Chen. He's positioned himself specifically to observe Patricia's boarding process, and his tablet is recording everything. The security camera system in the jet bridge has a clear angle, and Marcus watches his screen with growing certainty as Patricia stands, stretches, and walks. There it is, the evidence he needed. The proof that this woman has been lying, has been exploiting a system designed to help people who genuinely need assistance. Marcus immediately radios Lieutenant Reeves, his voice calm but urgent. "Got her." Clear footage of the wheelchair passenger walking normally in the jet bridge. "What's our play?" Lieutenant Reeves considers for a moment. They could confront Patricia now, pull her off the plane, but that would cause a scene and delay the flight. Better to document everything and catch her on the other end. She instructs Marcus to notify Miami airport security, to send them the footage, and to ensure they're ready to intercept Patricia when she lands. But Lieutenant Reeves also has another idea. She wants to see if Patricia will slip up again, wants to catch her in multiple acts of fraud to make the case absolutely airtight. So she tells Marcus to keep watching, to document everything. Back on the jet bridge, Patricia is blissfully unaware that she's been caught. She reaches the aircraft door where a flight attendant greets her warmly. Patricia immediately sits back down in the wheelchair, resuming her performance, and allows the flight attendant to help her to her seat. She's in seat 8C, an aisle seat in the premium economy section that she specifically requested for medical reasons. The flight attendant asks if she needs help stowing her carry-on, and Patricia accepts with that same weary grace, as if even the act of lifting her designer handbag into the overhead bin would be too much for her fragile condition. As Patricia settles into her seat, other passengers begin boarding. Rebecca Santos, the physical therapist who'd noticed something off about Patricia earlier, walks down the aisle and happens to glance at row 8. She sees Patricia sitting there looking perfectly comfortable, her legs crossed in a way that would be impossible for someone with genuine mobility issues, scrolling through her phone with the relaxed posture of someone who just pulled off something clever. Rebecca's suspicion deepens, but she continues to her own seat in row 15, still telling herself it's none of her business, still trying to give this woman the benefit of the doubt. The plane fills up gradually. The young mother with the twin toddlers ends up in row 12. The elderly couple holding hands settles into row 20. The businessman with the laptop scores an exit row, and slowly, inexorably, the aircraft prepares for departure. Patricia allows herself to relax. She's done it again. Smooth boarding, no hassle, perfect overhead bin space, and she'll be first off the plane in Miami too, because she'll request wheelchair assistance on the other end. The system is so easy to game when you're smart enough to see the angles. But 45 minutes into the flight, as the plane cruises at 35,000 feet and passengers settle into their own bubbles of entertainment and sleep, Patricia makes her second critical mistake. The seatbelt sign has been off for 20 minutes and she needs to use the bathroom. Now, a smart scammer would maintain their performance even in these small moments. A smart scammer would stand slowly, carefully, showing the appropriate level of difficulty and discomfort. But Patricia has grown so comfortable with her deception, so confident that she's fooled everyone, that she simply stands up normally and walks to the bathroom with the easy, confident stride of someone who goes to the gym 4 times a week and has absolutely nothing wrong with their mobility. And who's sitting in the aisle seat in row 12 watching this happen? Rebecca Santos, the physical therapist who's been trying all flight to convince herself that she's wrong about this woman. But now there's no doubt. Rebecca watches Patricia walk to the bathroom with perfect posture, perfect gait, perfect mobility, and something inside her snaps. Rebecca has dedicated her career to helping people with genuine disabilities. She's worked with patients struggling through painful rehabilitation, patients who would give anything to walk normally again, patients who face discrimination and accessibility challenges every single day. And this woman, this entitled, manipulative woman, is making a mockery of all of it. Rebecca makes a decision. When Patricia returns to her seat, Rebecca is going to say something. She's going to confront this fraud directly. But before she can act on that impulse, the flight attendant call button dings from row 8. Patricia has just sat back down and is requesting a beverage. The flight attendant, a young woman named Ashley, who's been with the airline for 3 years, approaches with her cart and asks what Patricia would like. Patricia orders a glass of white wine and makes a comment about how air travel is so stressful for someone with her condition. Ashley nods sympathetically, has no reason to doubt her, and serves the wine with genuine kindness. Rebecca watches this interaction from her seat, her frustration building. She considers pressing her own call button, considers quietly informing the flight attendant of her suspicions. But what would she say? That she saw a passenger walk normally to the bathroom? That's not enough. The woman could claim it's a variable condition, a good day, pain management, any number of explanations. Rebecca would look like she was harassing another passenger. She might even face complaints herself. So she sits there, stewing in her frustration, watching Patricia sip her wine with smug satisfaction. But here's the beautiful thing about karma, about justice, about the way the universe has a habit of balancing the scales. Because while Rebecca is deciding what to do, while Patricia is congratulating herself on another successful scam, a passenger in row 6 has just posted something on social media. His name is Tyler, he's 24 years old, and he's what you might call an aspiring influencer. Tyler loves documenting every moment of his life, loves sharing observations and calling out things he thinks are wrong with the world. And Tyler happened to be standing near the priority boarding area at gate 42. He happened to film a short video about airport travel, and in the background of that video, clearly visible, is Patricia wheeling herself to the gate. Tyler didn't think anything of it at the time, just another passenger in a wheelchair. But then, during the flight, Tyler also needed to use the bathroom. And as he walked down the aisle, he passed Patricia's seat. And Tyler, who has the kind of visual memory that comes from constantly processing the world through a camera lens, immediately recognized her as the wheelchair woman from the gate. Except now she was sitting there looking perfectly healthy, legs crossed, wine glass in hand, no sign of any mobility issue whatsoever. Tyler's content creator brain immediately started firing. This was a story. This was engagement. This was the kind of real-life drama that his followers would eat up. Tyler returns to his seat and pulls up the video he'd filmed at the gate. Sure enough, there's Patricia in her wheelchair, front and center. Tyler's mind races with possibilities. He could post this, could do a whole exposé on wheelchair fraud, could get thousands of shares. But Tyler, for all his influencer ambitions, isn't completely without conscience. He decides to wait until after the flight, to gather more evidence, to make sure he's not jumping to conclusions. He opens his notes app and starts documenting everything he's observed, including the timestamps and seat numbers. The flight continues. Patricia orders a second glass of wine. Rebecca stares at her phone, still wrestling with whether to take action. Tyler quietly documents his observations, and back on the ground, Marcus Chen has sent a comprehensive report to Miami Airport Security, complete with video footage, timestamps, and a detailed account of Patricia's movements. The trap is set, the evidence is documented, and Patricia Henderson has absolutely no idea that her comfortable, self-satisfied flight to Miami is about to turn into the worst day of her life. An hour before landing, the captain announces they'll be beginning their descent soon. Passengers start putting away their laptops and tablets, returning their seats to the upright position. preparing for arrival. Patricia stretches in her seat, feeling pleased with herself. She's already arranged for wheelchair assistance in Miami, has already pictured herself being wheeled through the terminal, while everyone else stands in customs lines. She even plans to post something on her social media about how difficult air travel is for people with disabilities. Really lean into the victim narrative. She's got this down to a science. The plane lands smoothly at Miami International Airport, taxiing to the gate with that characteristic whine of jet engines powering down. The seatbelt sign turns off, and immediately passengers spring into action, grabbing bags from overhead bins, crowding the aisle, eager to deplane. But Patricia stays seated, maintaining her performance. She knows that wheelchair passengers are always last off, that the airline brings the wheelchair right to her seat. So she sits there, looking fragile and patient, while the plane gradually empties around her. Rebecca Santos passes Patricia's row on her way off the plane, and their eyes meet for just a second. Rebecca's expression is knowing, almost challenging, and Patricia feels a tiny flutter of unease. But she pushes it away. So what if one passenger looked at her funny? That doesn't mean anything. She's fine. Everything is fine. The flight attendant, Ashley, approaches with a wheelchair, asking if Patricia is ready to deplane. Patricia nods graciously and allows Ashley to help her into the wheelchair, maintaining her careful movements, her practiced expression of discomfort. Ashley wheels Patricia off the plane and onto the jet bridge, chatting pleasantly about Miami weather and making sure Patricia has everything she needs. Patricia responds with that perfect mixture of gratitude and bravery, the martyr who soldiers on despite her suffering. They emerge from the jet bridge into the terminal, and Ashley asks if Patricia needs help to baggage claim, or if someone is meeting her. Patricia assures her she'll be fine from here, thanks her profusely, and tips her $20. Ashley smiles and heads back to the plane, completely unaware of what's about to happen. Patricia begins wheeling herself through the Miami terminal, and this is where the story gets really good. Because waiting near the arrival gate, positioned strategically where they can observe without being obvious, are two Miami-Dade airport security officers. They've received Marcus Chen's report. They've watched the video footage of Patricia walking normally in the jet bridge, and they've been instructed to observe her behavior upon arrival. They want to catch her in the act one more time, want to make the case absolutely undeniable. Patricia wheels through the terminal, following the signs toward baggage claim. The Miami airport is huge, sprawling, one of the busiest in the country. The terminal is crowded with travelers, the air conditioning fighting a losing battle against the humid Miami heat that seeps in every time the automatic doors open. Patricia is focused on navigating through the crowd, on maintaining her performance, on getting to baggage claim so she can collect her designer luggage and head to her hotel. She's thinking about the pool, about ordering room service, about posting photos of her Miami vacation on Instagram. She's not thinking about the two security officers following her at a discreet distance, documenting her every movement. But then something happens that Patricia hasn't anticipated. The escalator to baggage claim is broken, cordoned off with yellow caution tape and an out-of-order sign. Maintenance workers are examining the mechanism, and a handwritten sign directs passengers to use the elevator instead. Now, elevators in airports are notoriously slow, especially during peak arrival times. There's already a crowd of people waiting for the elevator, and it's going to be at least a 5 or 10 minute wait. Patricia looks at the broken escalator, then at the elevator queue, and makes a calculation. Next to the broken escalator is a regular staircase, about 20 steps down to the baggage claim level. Patricia has been in airports long enough to know that the stairs are always empty, because everyone clusters around the escalators and elevators. If she takes the stairs, she'll be down to baggage claim in 30 seconds instead of waiting 10 minutes. And here's where Patricia's arrogance, her absolute certainty that she's smarter than everyone else, leads her to make the most catastrophic decision of this entire journey. She stands up. Just stands right up out of the wheelchair in the middle of the crowded terminal. She stretches her back, rolls her shoulders, and starts walking toward the staircase, leaving the empty wheelchair sitting there like abandoned evidence of her deception. And she doesn't just walk, she practically jogs, moving quickly through the crowd, heels clicking confidently on the polished floor, moving with the purposeful stride of someone who's in a hurry and has absolutely nothing wrong with their mobility whatsoever. The security officers can't believe what they're seeing. One of them, Officer Rodriguez, actually starts recording on his phone. because this is so blatant, so undeniable, so absolutely perfect from an evidence standpoint that he wants to capture it. Patricia reaches the staircase and descends quickly, efficiently, her hand barely touching the railing, moving like someone who goes up and down stairs every day without a second thought. She reaches the bottom, doesn't even look back at the wheelchair she's abandoned, and heads directly toward the baggage claim carousels. Officer Rodriguez looks at his partner, Officer Kim, and they exchange a glance that says everything. They've got her. This isn't a misunderstanding or a variable condition or anything that can be explained away. This is clear, documented, undeniable fraud. They follow Patricia down the stairs, maintaining their distance, waiting for the perfect moment to approach. Patricia reaches Carousel 7, where bags from her flight are just starting to appear. She positions herself right at the front, watching for her distinctive cream-colored hard-shell luggage, completely absorbed in the mundane task of bag collection. She's already mentally checked out of her airport performance, already thinking like someone who's successfully arrived at their destination. The wheelchair is forgotten. The act is over. She's made it, except she hasn't. Because Officer Rodriguez and Officer Kim are now standing directly behind her, and Officer Rodriguez clears his throat and says, "Excuse me, ma'am? Ma'am, can we have a word with you, please?" Patricia turns around and her face does something interesting. For just a split second, before she can control it, there's a flash of pure panic. Her eyes widen, her mouth opens slightly, and every drop of color drains from her face. She knows, in that instant, she knows exactly why these officers are talking to her. Knows that she's been caught. Knows that her perfect scam has just exploded in her face. But Patricia didn't get to 52 years old by giving up easily. She immediately attempts to recover, forcing a confused smile onto her face. "I'm sorry, is something wrong?" she asks, her voice carrying just a hint of concern but mostly innocence. Officer Rodriguez is professional, calm, showing no emotion. "Ma'am, we need to ask you some questions about the wheelchair assistance you received today. Could you come with us to the security office, please?" Patricia's mind is racing, calculating, looking for angles. "I don't understand. What's this about?" "I have a medical condition that—" Officer Kim interrupts gently but firmly. "Ma'am, we have video footage of you walking normally, including footage of you running down the stairs just now. We need to discuss this in private. Please come with us." The word running hits Patricia like a physical blow. They saw her on the stairs. They have footage. The reality of the situation crashes down on her with devastating force. She looks around desperately, as if the crowd of travelers collecting their luggage might somehow save her, might offer some escape route. But there's nowhere to go, nothing to say, no way to explain away what they've witnessed and documented. Rebecca Santos, the physical therapist from the flight, happens to be at the same baggage carousel. She watches this confrontation unfold and feels a surge of satisfaction. Justice. Finally. She doesn't know exactly what's happening, but she knows that passenger is being confronted about her obvious fraud, and Rebecca allows herself a small smile. Patricia has no choice but to follow the officers. They escort her away from the baggage carousel, through a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only," and into a small security office. The room is basic, functional, with a desk, a few chairs, and a computer monitor. Officer Rodriguez asks Patricia to have a seat, and his tone is no longer polite and deferential. Now it's official, serious, carrying the weight of law enforcement authority. Patricia sits, and for the first time in this entire journey, her performance completely crumbles. Her hands are shaking. Her perfectly applied makeup can't hide the sweat breaking out on her forehead. Her designer clothes suddenly look like a costume. Officer Kim pulls up the video footage on the computer monitor, and Patricia is forced to watch herself. There she is, standing up in the jet bridge, walking normally. There she is on the plane, moving easily to the bathroom. And most damning of all, there she is just minutes ago, standing up from the wheelchair and practically running down the stairs. The evidence is irrefutable, displayed in crystal-clear high-definition video from multiple angles. Patricia opens her mouth to speak, but Officer Rodriguez holds up a hand. "Before you say anything, ma'am, I need to inform you that fraudulently requesting disability services is a violation of federal law. It's also a violation of airport regulations and airline policies. Do you understand?" Patricia nods mutely. Her mind is spinning through possible explanations, possible excuses. But everything sounds ridiculous even to her own ears. She can't claim a temporary condition when she's been walking perfectly normally throughout the entire day. She can't claim she needed the wheelchair for some specific reason when she abandoned it to run down the stairs. There's no way out of this, Officer Kim continues. We've been in contact with security at your departure airport. They've provided additional footage of you requesting wheelchair service despite having no visible mobility issues. We've also spoken with the gate agent and flight attendants, who confirmed you received priority boarding and assistance based on your claim of disability. Is there anything you'd like to tell us? Patricia's throat is so tight she can barely speak, but she manages to whisper. It was stupid. I didn't think... Her voice trails off. Officer Rodriguez leans back in his chair, studying her. You didn't think you'd get caught. You've been doing this for a while, haven't you? Patricia doesn't answer, but her silence is answer enough. Officer Kim pulls out a notepad. We're going to need to take your information and file a report. The airline will also be notified, and they'll make their own determination about future travel privileges. Additionally, you may face fines and prosecution. We take this very seriously, ma'am. Wheelchair services exist for people who genuinely need them. When you fake a disability to cut lines and get special treatment, you're not just breaking rules. You're stealing resources from people who actually need help, and you're making it harder for people with invisible disabilities to be believed. Those words hit Patricia harder than anything else. For the first time, really the first time in the 3 years she's been running this scam, Patricia is forced to confront what she's actually been doing. She's not being clever. She's not beating the system. She's been stealing from disabled people, exploiting protections meant for the vulnerable, all because she thought her time was more valuable than everyone else's. The shame that washes over her is overwhelming, crushing, and tears start rolling down her face, streaking her expensive makeup. The next hour is a blur of questions, documentation, and procedures. Patricia has to provide her identification, her address, her contact information. The officers photograph her, take statements, document everything. They inform her that the airline has flagged her account and that she'll likely be banned from requesting wheelchair services in the future. They explain that she may receive a court summons, that there may be fines ranging from $500 to $5,000, that this will be on her record. Patricia sits through all of it in numb silence, the reality of her situation settling over her like a suffocating blanket. When she's finally allowed to leave the security office, Patricia emerges into the baggage claim area like a ghost of her former self. Her luggage has been pulled aside by airport staff, sitting alone near the carousel. She collects it in silence and heads toward the exit. As she walks through the automatic doors into the humid Miami evening, she sees a line of taxis and rideshare vehicles waiting. She gets into a taxi and gives the driver her hotel address. And during that drive through Miami traffic, Patricia stares out the window and thinks about what just happened. She thinks about Miguel, the assistant who pushed her wheelchair with such kindness, completely unaware he was being used. She thinks about Jennifer, the gate agent, who treated her with dignity and respect she didn't deserve. She thinks about Ashley, the flight attendant, who went out of her way to help her, to make her comfortable. She thinks about every genuinely disabled person who's ever been doubted, every person with an invisible illness who's been questioned or challenged, and realizes she's contributed to that problem. She's made it worse. She's been the person that creates skepticism and doubt, making life harder for people who actually need help. Back at the airport, Tyler, the aspiring influencer, has just posted his thread about what he witnessed. Within an hour, it's going viral. Thousands of people are sharing his story, commenting about their own experiences with people faking disabilities, expressing outrage and frustration. Some comments are supportive of catching fraudsters like Patricia. Others remind everyone that invisible disabilities are real and that we should be careful about jumping to conclusions. The conversation is messy and complicated, but it's happening. And Patricia's story has become a cautionary tale spreading across social media at lightning speed. Rebecca Santos sees the post while waiting for her own rideshare. She feels vindicated but also thoughtful. As a physical therapist, she knows how complex disability can be, how judgment and skepticism can harm people who genuinely need support. But she also knows what she saw, knows that Patricia was absolutely faking, and feels that confronting that fraud was the right thing to do. Sometimes calling out injustice is necessary, even when it's uncomfortable. At her Miami hotel, Patricia checks in and goes straight to her room. She doesn't admire the view. She doesn't think about the pool or room service or Instagram photos. She sits on the edge of the bed, still wearing her cream-colored blazer, and thinks about the person she's become. Somewhere along the way, she convinced herself that being clever was the same as being right, that exploiting loopholes was the same as being smart. She told herself she wasn't hurting anyone, that she was just optimizing her travel experience. But now, forced to face the truth, she can see clearly what she's been doing. She's been taking advantage of kindness, exploiting systems designed to help vulnerable people, all because she believed her comfort was more important than integrity. The next morning, Patricia receives an email from the airline. Her account has been suspended pending investigation. She's been banned from requesting wheelchair services permanently. If she wants to fly with them in the future, she'll have to go through standard procedures like everyone else. There's also a notification that she may be required to attend a court hearing, that prosecutors are reviewing her case. Patricia reads the email 3 times, each word feeling like another weight added to her shoulders. Over the following weeks, Patricia's story continues to spread. Local news picks it up. Airport security uses her case as a training example. The discussion about disability fraud versus invisible disability becomes a trending topic. And through it all, Patricia has to live with the knowledge that she's become an example of everything wrong with entitlement, with the casual cruelty of people who think rules don't apply to them. The court summons arrives 6 weeks later. Patricia will have to appear before a judge, will have to answer for her actions officially. The fine ends up being $2,500, plus community service hours working with a disability advocacy organization. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s who's heard every excuse imaginable, looks directly at Patricia during sentencing and says, "I hope you use this experience to become a better person. I hope you learn that privilege is not an excuse for fraud, that convenience is not worth compromising your integrity, and that the systems we create to help vulnerable people are not your personal shortcuts." Patricia serves her community service at a center for independent living, helping people with various disabilities navigate daily challenges. She meets a young woman paralyzed in a car accident, struggling to adapt to life in a wheelchair. She meets an older man with severe arthritis, who tells her about the discrimination he faces when people question whether he's really disabled, because his condition isn't always visible. She meets a mother with chronic pain who talks about the guilt she feels requesting wheelchair assistance at airports, worried that people will judge her, will think she's faking, because she doesn't look sick enough. Every story, every person, every conversation is a reminder of what Patricia's fraud contributed to. Months later, on a flight back home from a work trip Patricia has to take for her job that she's lucky she didn't lose, Patricia stands in the regular security line. No wheelchair, no priority access, no shortcuts. She waits her turn like everyone else, and when she finally boards the plane, she's in Zone 5, shuffling down the aisle with her carry-on, looking for Overheam.